I rise to express my dissatisfaction with the legislation that is before us, and possibly even more so the process that brought us here. We are here to discuss Senate Bill 1202, which is an emergency certified bill that myself and my Republican colleagues had not seen or heard of until around 3 a.m. today. This is known as the budget implementer. And the idea behind the budget implementer is that it is the companion policy legislation that goes with the budget that was voted on last week. I want to start by saying, first off, that I align myself with the comments of Senator Minor. He covered a lot of the same material I would have, but I will leave that alone. And I will also say that I am extremely pleased to have voted against the budget already. My remarks today are going to be largely focused on the process, as I mentioned, and the so-called implementer bill before us. However, I do want to give a very quick review of the remarks that I gave during the budget speech because I believe they are relevant to this document. The first thing I would like to point out is that any claim that this state budget and this implementation language that goes with it is a no-tax budget is simply a bald-faced lie. I clarified this in great detail last week, yet I have noticed that colleagues, including colleagues in both parties, and the press continue to refer to this as a no-tax budget. And that's just not true, Madam President. A no-tax budget would not include nearly $2 billion of federal aid that was paid for by taxes and call it a no-tax budget. The budget removes surcharges, several of them, most notably the corporate surcharge on businesses in this state who were counting on the fact that they were going to cease paying an exorbitant tax to operate in Connecticut. Obviously, as this impacts our ability to attract businesses, to create jobs and grow our economy. And it is definitely a new tax. When you tell someone their tax is going to expire and then you say, no, it's not. That's a new bill. And of course, there's taxes that are outside of the budget itself. Gaming, marijuana, which just passed this chamber earlier today, the highway tax. All of these things are going to generate revenue for the state of Connecticut that will be spent in large part because of the words on this implementer policy that we're debating right now. Not to mention that there are actually very simply new taxes in the budget. There is a tax on the conveyance fee when you make a payment to the state of Connecticut for a license and you use a credit card. There's now going to be a tax on that. It's actually somewhat insulting since the fee that you're paying to the state of Connecticut is already a tax, but now we're going to add a tax on top of a tax. But the easiest way to identify whether taxes are going up or not is just to look at the bottom line spending figure. Because the government doesn't generate any profit. It doesn't generate any wealth. It doesn't produce money. All it can do is spend it. So if the spending number is going up, and in this case it's going up dramatically, by this time 2 years from now when we are debating the next budget, the increase in spending will have been 6.5%. That's one of the largest 2-year increases we have ever had. It may in fact be the largest one. So don't tell me there are no taxes. When you're spending 6.5% more money, and it only can come from taxing the residents of your state or taking it from the federal government who tax the residents of your state, there are more taxes. It is not a no-tax budget. I'll point out also that there are massive, massive expected deficits at the end of this budget cycle. Think about how irresponsible it is to draft a budget document to get us through the next 2 years, knowing full well that at the end of that cycle, there's a deficit projected, with no plan to address it other than, oh gee, we're going to have to fill in the hole left by that federal money that we got more or less for free. but was not free because taxpayers paid for it. As I explained at that time during that debate, that the vote we were taking on the budget itself, which was one of the shortest budgets I had ever seen here, because it was only the spreadsheet that covered the numbers and not the actual policy, is that's what it was, really, just a big spreadsheet showing the money. I am even more pleased now that I voted no on the budget after seeing the implementer document. This morning, I was very happy to join my Republican colleagues at a press conference calling attention to what I consider a really disgraceful abuse of the majority's power that this document represents. The main point of the press conference was that this is a huge document, number one, and well beyond simply implementing the budget. And it is a huge document, Madam President. It is 837 pages on top of the 73 pages that was the spreadsheet showing the money. It's the first budget that I can remember that if you drop it on your foot, you're going to break your toe. It's a good way to define what is too much for a budget. In contrast, the budget from 2019, which included the budget and implementation language, was around 500 pages. This is twice that. And as I said, it was delivered to us at 3 in the morning. And many of us didn't see it until we woke up this morning, 7, 8 o'clock, and got our first chance to look at it. And then we were brought in here and told that we would have to vote on a brand new version of the marijuana bill, which was also 300 pages. So listen here, minority Republicans. I know we didn't give you a whole lot of warning on this document or what's in it, but you have plenty of time to learn your 837 pages of new policy while you're studying and voting and debating on marijuana. This is another 300 pages of new information. It's obnoxious, Madam President. As Senator Minor mentioned, the implementer bill is supposed to be the policy that is directly related to the budget itself. And that's in here, no question about it. And we should be debating the merits of it. But a lot of it is not policy that directly implements the budget. And not all of that is bad policy. Some of it might even be good. But a lot of it is bad. I was going to take this document, this giant document, and go through it section by section, 544 sections before the amendment. I think it comes out to 538 or 9 now. But I only made it to line 11,000, Madam President, out of nearly 25,000 lines in a document with only hours to digest. But just looking at the summary, you can see that there are numerous items that don't have anything to do with the budget here. Sections 15 through 19, a huge expansion of Husky A. 58 through 60, new policy affecting crumbling foundations. The Native American mascot issue was already addressed. That's section 63. What exactly does that have to do with the state budget? This is policy that should have gone through the committee process. Someone should have put in a bill. It should have went to a committee. It should have received a public hearing. It should have gotten public input. It should have been debated by a committee. It should have been voted on in committee. It should have been amended if necessary before it ever came here. It should not show up in a budget implementer, emergency certified, a week after we finished our business. Sections 161 through 195, I think. It's referred to in the summary as modernization. But this is policy that essentially creates the ability to continue remote meetings rather than in-person meetings for the state and municipal governments. This has nothing to do with the budget, but it has everything to do with the process that we have faced this session, which has limited the ability of the minority to operate and do its duty. Senator Minor already mentioned 196, which is the outdoor dining piece, which we understood the purpose of, but again, has nothing to do with our state budget and does not belong in this document. Section 339, speed cameras. Section 221, which was already mentioned also. This is a policy that is extremely concerning. I read through it several times, worried that I was going to miss finishing the rest of the document because I was trying to understand that thoroughly. But what it does is it allows agencies of the state to embark on and arrange contractual agreements with other states. It's like a progressive dream, Madam President. The purpose of having three bodies in our government is so that the legislature makes the policy and writes the laws. This goes right around the legislative body and gives the executive branch and the bureaucrats that they hire the power to make arrangements with other states without input from us who happen to be the representatives of the people of the state of Connecticut. There's also plenty of items in this budget document, this budget implementer, that failed during the legislative session. I serve as the ranking member of the Government Administration and Elections Committee, and as a member of the minority, my job is to support good policy and stop bad policy. That's my job. Stop bad policy. Work with the majority, figure out what's good, try and come up with bipartisan solutions, pass what we can, but stop bad policy. I left here on Sine Die, which is the final night of our session last Wednesday at midnight, very proud of myself that I stopped what I thought was bad policy. I stopped it by working hard, by offering amendments, making cogent arguments, making the majority uncomfortable with the policies that they were putting forward because I was raising public opinion against them. And these bills, many of them died. That's the expression we use here, Madam President. Those bills died. That means that they did not become law because they did not go through the full process of passing both chambers and being signed by the governor. That's an achievement you can have in the minority. But those bills, and I'm referring to Senate Bill 5 and Senate Bill 901 in particular, two bills that I debated in this chamber for hours. And when they were not able to be passed through the other chamber, they came back here and through there, added as amendments the last several days of the session in a desperate attempt by the majority to get them passed and become law. And you know what? They failed. They failed because they didn't use their time properly, and they knew that they would take more time to go through this chamber again and through me. That is the achievement I had, Madam President, representing my constituents and stopping bad policy. And yet, those items are in this document today, this 900-page behemoth. We had a Republican caucus this morning for the Republican senators. And the most common statement I heard around the table was, I thought that bill was dead. I thought that was a dead issue. Bringing these bills back to life after the end of session in a budget implementer document, emergency certified without a hearing, is wrong, Madam President. I understand that this might be a little bit in the weeds for citizens that are watching this, so I'm directing these comments now really at my colleagues in both parties. They know it's wrong. They know it's wrong that when we go through the process of having bills proposed and having them taken up by committee, it's work to get people to listen to you, even in the majority, to get them to take up your bill, to get people to testify on it, to get it through the process, to get it to be heard, because you're competing with hundreds and hundreds of other bills. When a bill is stopped by members of the minority, it's for good reason, because we worked very hard to make that happen. It's wrong to subvert the idea that we have a legislative session that begins on a day and ends on a day, and that we are supposed to follow a set of processes to get to the end. Year after year, I watch the process get worse and worse, Madam President. I often comment in this chamber that all we do is pass titles through committee now. The committee process is where we're supposed to fine-tune bills before they come here. The bill is proposed, it gets a hearing, the public provides input, the committee debates it, they're supposed to fix it. No, no, no. More times than not, Madam President, the bill leaves committee as a work in progress. And then it comes to this floor or the floor of the House, and the very first thing you hear the proponent of that bill say is, Madam President, or Mr. Speaker, I have a strike all amendment. It's a disgrace. It basically says the bill that you passed through the committee is irrelevant. It's been replaced with something else. All that really mattered is that we passed a title by a name that we can use for something else entirely and pull the wool over the eyes of the people of the state of Connecticut. Why even have a session, Madam President? Seriously. If you can just go through the whole process, ignore what we're supposed to do, ignore the committee process, ignore the amendment process, do emergency certification when necessary, cut off debate when necessary, or after the session, throw it all in a giant bill. Why not just have one bill? Make it 50,000 pages long with your giant wish list of everything you want, because that's the way the majority is treating the minority in this state. And it's wrong. We have only one strength in the minority, and that is time. The fact that there is a deadline for the majority to pass the legislation that they want. That's all we have. And this process, bringing these bills back to life after the fact, takes that away. And Madam President, I don't care about me. I don't care about me at all. But what I want the majority to understand, and again, I am talking to members of the majority who should know what's right and wrong about this process, is they're not taking anything away from me. They are taking something away from the people I represent. The 100,000 people in my district that I represent, the people that elected me to come up here and stand for them, you have taken their voice away from me because you've taken any ability I have to affect the outcome of policy away. And it's wrong. The majority knows. They know that they have gone too far with this monster bill. They know it. I can only hope that the press is as honest about it also. The people of Connecticut deserve to know the details. They deserve a thorough and honest debate where all the parties had a chance to participate in the production of policy, where we're at least given enough opportunity and afforded the time to be able to digest and understand the policy that we're debating and voting on. They deserve a fair and legitimate legislative process, something that has been walked upon since day one of this session, using COVID as an excuse, impacting the ability of individuals to testify. We had a bill this year where thousands of people were told that they were not going to get the chance to testify on it because it was going to be not in person but in Zoom, and there was going to be a deadline. How do you call yourself a representative government if the people that you represent you ignore? Like they don't matter. They are the only thing that matters, Madam President. Those people also deserve a budget and policies that benefit the future of this state. And this budget and this implementer will only carry us much farther in the wrong direction. It fails to make our state more attractive or affordable. In fact, it does the opposite. I vote no, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. Will you